Hi everyone, welcome to the inaugural edition of Founder Voices. So Founder Voices is a podcast that is dedicated to founders and their journeys. Founder Voices is hosted by myself, Clement Akran, and I'm the CEO and founder of Cottage Factory. Founder Voices was birthed out of my experience with founders and entrepreneur people that were setting up really phenomenal things and coming up with really good ideas and creating employment opportunity for lots of other people. And I thought it'd be good to share the journey with you. So perhaps you've got an idea, you're not sure on how to go about it. Perhaps you've got an idea that you're working on and you want to improve on it. These founders are people on the same journey with you. And through these podcasts, you can get to understand the challenges and also how they overcome these challenges. So stay tuned. On this edition of Founder Voices, we're hosting Dr. Ola Ogunyemi. Dr. Ola Ogunyemi is a phenomenal guy. He's an academic, but also he's set up a cooperative in Nigeria, working with farmers, educating them, empowering them, and inspiring them to do incredible things. He's passionate about food security. And during the course of this conversation with him, you'll be talking about his idea, his challenges, and where he's at on the journey. So stay tuned and enjoy. Hi there. Welcome to Founder Voices meeting. This is actually designed to engage founders to understand their experience and see how best we can learn from them. This is our very first one. It's the inaugural episode, and we hope that this will bring out some of the important nuggets we're hoping to share with our community and our audiences. So Cottage Factory is a company that works with startups and SMEs. So we help to ideate, we help you to refine your ideas, and we help you to grow and pivot. We use the agile methodology, so you don't have to invest too much in testing and developing a prototype or minimum viable product. And the whole vision is to work with budding founders, SMEs, and startups so they can very quickly test their ideas and go to market, especially innovative ideas. Well, today we are very lucky to have a very busy man. In fact, he is multitasking. He was at a meeting with the farmers he's working with, the people he's inspiring to do great things. He's a man that I highly respect. He's highly involved in food security, in agriculture, but also embedded in the academic sector in the UK. So without much ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Ola Ogunyemi, and he will tell you a bit about himself, then we'll delve into other questions. Very happy to have you, sir.
It's a pleasure. Let me thank you, Clement, for having me. Of course, you are somebody that I've known for a while. You know, we're in the same WhatsApp group, agro business group, and we've spoken together. I know about your vision and what you're trying to do, and it's a fantastic thing that we can bring together SMEs, people who have made a mark in their field, and especially in the way they also have what we call transferable skills in terms of what they know and then now use it in practice. Okay, because that's what is missing, especially if we talk about sub-Saharan Africa. People have knowledge that is not transferable, or in a way they don't know how to transfer that knowledge. Are you getting me? So, and there's no knowledge that is a waste. It's just the way you think about that knowledge that helps you. For instance, you know, I'm a communicator. I trained as a journalist and I teach it. You know, I'm a professor of journalism. That is a skill that is also connecting people. Because if you look at it and say it's not just, oh, okay, train somebody to write or publish or something like that, you can also use it to motivate people and help them to, you know, discover their own potential and motivate them to do what they have to do. You see, so everybody needs somebody alongside them, either as somebody will be motivating them, somebody who is going to be mentoring them, somebody who's going to be encouraging them
mm,
to keep doing, because we live in a challenging world now.
mm.
And when you talk about food security, as we are talking about, it's not easy to grow the food.
Exactly.
Then the next stage is preserving the food
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
then selling it and
mm-hmm,
making income out of it.
mm-hmm,
So there's a process. It's the
mm-hmm,
point.
mm,
And you cannot control all the processes. So you have to know where your strength lies
mm,
and then begin to say, okay, who else can I collaborate with? And that's
mm,
another thing that we don't know how to do very well in
mm,
sub-Saharan Africa, collaborating.
mm,
Everybody wants to be their own CEO. I'm the master of this. But you don't understand that, look, even before you get to that point, you
mm,
need to have gone through a process,
mm,
working with other people, collaborating, identifying needs, and then filling that needs, making yourself valuable. It's
mm,
not just enough to say, I give me, give me, give me, you know. And when I talk to young people, most of the times they say that it's because we don't have capital. I say,
mm,
no, you have to have an idea first,
mm,
and then capital will follow a good idea.
mm,
It's the point. So, and that's where we come in, as academics and as people who kind of glue people together, connect people together. We come in from that level.
mm,
And at this stage, I wear another hat, you know,
mm,
and my other hat is that being, working with farmers.
mm,
Those farmers
mm,
are in the rural community,
mm,
you know, and many of them are cut off
mm,
from government policy.
mm,
They Many of them, we term them as illiterate just because they can't speak English. It's the
mm,
point. But they have indigenous knowledge,
mm,
okay,
mm,
which
mm,
we are not tapping into.
mm,
So we need to be working with people who produce our food
mm,
and encouraging them. So Shepherd Food Ministries actually started as a way of linking up with, of course, Sustainable Development Goals 1 and 2, which is zero hunger, you know, um, poverty eradication, and things like that. So we need to be able to come in and say, okay, how do we work with smallholder farmers,
mm,
empower them to be able to produce food and make a decent income?
mm,
Okay, and it's a journey, because many of them, when we started, about 17 years ago now, I went to the village in Osun State, in
mm,
Kuta area, and I was talking to them in the village there, and you can see farmers who are in their 80s
mm.
still working, no
Wow.
retirement. They don't retire from that job, because they love the land, they love what
Mm,
they do, you know. And for you to know how much farmers love what they do, when they take, one of them said to me that there was a time they took a basket of okra to
mm,
the market, and that's a long trek too to even get to the market. Got there, and they were pricing it at a very low price. He said he went in the morning. He was there like 6 a.m. in the morning. When it was 4 p.m., he had to sell at a loss
mm,
because he didn't want to take it back and throw it away. We just say, okay, fine. If people are not going to pay me decent money for it, I'd rather see go to good use.
mm,
Okay, give me the minimum I want to give me and go. And we've been taking that for granted because we just say, oh, well, they will be tired. I'll just sit and wait. You see? So that's because there's no support system for them to be able
mm,
to know that, okay, when I grow this is how much I can get. They can't plan.
mm,
And you can't go to any bank now and say, oh, I need a loan. And say, what do? You say you are a farmer. They will even shut the door on you straight away because they believe that, look, there's no money in it. And there's plenty of money in it, but it's because it's not well structured.
mm,
There's no support system in place and also things like that. So we now work with the farmers there and say, look, form a cooperative. Of course, they know the idea of a cooperative, but it's also
mm,
the point is that they don't have the time
mm,
to run a structure like that. So they also need somebody alongside them. So SFM comes alongside them and say, look, we will be helping you, to organize and things like that. And
mm,
I've just been in a meeting with them every last Saturday of the month. They come to my farm
mm,
to come and discuss about issues and whatever. And through our intervention, they've been
mm,
able to have access to microfinance because they can't go to any bank.
mm,
In fact, about 2018, when they formed the cooperative, and I asked them, say, how many of you have got a bank account? None.
mm,
I had to go to the city, get a banker to come and then enroll them.
mm,
And the person said, why don't I bring them to the I said, no, I'm giving you clients. You have to come to them.
mm,
So 70 of them were given a bank account that day. You see, they don't have time to go because the roads are not even good anyway.
yes.
And they don't have time to queue. You know, when you go to the bank, another 3, 4, 5 hours, you are still there. They have job to do on the farm. So we should actually make government or governance closer
Mm,
to the people who need it. There's so much distance between, government and the people who need them. We need to bring it closer. And
mm,
that's where SFM is a bridge.
mm,
So, and that's my advocacy is to make sure that they understand what they can get from the government, and then they can tap into that, and then the government too can benefit eventually because it's a revolving door.
mm.
You invest in this, they come up with that. When there is more food available, prices will come down, inflation will be low, and all sorts of things. So it helps the economy. Yeah,
Absolutely.
let me stop
Yeah.
there for now.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's a very good synopsis of what you're doing. But at this point, I would want to ask you what inspired you, because this is definitely a labor of love. I mean, you've got a decent career here, you've got a decent living, and you could easily just fold your hands and be comfortable and live the rest of your life. But what inspired you to go the extra mile?
Yeah, you're quite right. In fact, if you look at the trajectory and the journey of people who have been coming to the when we go to the diaspora, so not just to the UK,
Yeah.
since the 50s and up till now, people have been coming from Nigeria
Mm,
to the UK and to the US to study and then stay eventually. But what we haven't had is the brain gain part of it. We
mm.
hear so much about the brain drain,
Rain.
but the brain gain. So now, of course, through the diaspora commission, they are now talking about, okay, maybe Japa syndrome that everybody is running away should be spinned to mean they can Japada. They can always come back. We can benefit from it. Many countries do that. Philippines make a lot of money out of their diaspora. In fact, it was a deliberate policy in Philippines for them to go, it's like shipping them out to America,
Mm,
and then they get, in return, remittances, which has been helping the economy. You know, of course, a lot of remittances is also going to Nigeria, to Egypt, and something like that. The point is that most of our remittances to Nigeria is going towards consumption
mm,
instead of production.
mm,
And that's
mm,
why the government has not seen the impact of it.
mm,
To the point. So my motivation for doing what I'm doing now is about giving back.
mm,
To the point. You need to give back. And don't just think, oh, when you come to a stage in your career, you feel, well, I've achieved everything I want to achieve. Let me just retire and enjoy my life. What does that actually mean? It is not. What does enjoyment actually mean? So let me just go to Lanzarote, let me go and stay for 1 week, relax, sunshine, and things like that, and then come back. And no, you have to connect with people.
mm.
You have to have a legacy. So your legacy shouldn't just be how much money you have in your account. It should be on how many people that you actually touched.
Wow.
See the point? So, and when you think of it in that sense, you begin to see where you can be relevant, you know. And this idea of this, food poverty thing, is something that has been in the back of my mind since I was a very young boy. I
Wow.
remember myself, I even thought I was going to read agriculture. In fact, when I was going, I applied to the School of Agric in Nigeria like 3 times. I was not given admission. I don't know
Wow.
why. you know, so so having that in mind and thinking, okay. So now that I'm into communication and things like that, of course, the idea is still in the back of my mind that people shouldn't be hungry in the land of plenty. When I
Mm,
was little, I remember living with my grandma and things like that. I kept chickens. They just roam around, and none of my chicken dies. They go around, they come back. You have some more chicks and things like that. If we want to kill anything, we just point at one and say, that one is going. It was, so why should people be talking of hunger in Nigeria that is so blessed? People should rediscover farming. But the problem we have is that because of modernity, if you go to most of the houses in Lagos, they build a huge structure. They don't have any place in the compound to even plant vegetables. They cement everything. So what do you expect? So you expect someone else to go and grow their own something in the north and bring it to you. Yeah. So when people talk about food prices are high, I say, yeah, it will be high because what is your own contribution to it? There are certain things you can do. All these people having flower pots in their houses, they say, why do you put flower there? Why don't you plant some vegetables, that will grow in it? Pepper you can grow. In fact, 50% of what they use their money to buy in Nigeria, they can actually grow in the back of their house. I'm telling you, easily. But it's just thinking about it, and then looking at it as a low-level job. So, me, a farmer, ask any young person and say, "Do you want to be a farmer?" They know, because they kind of attach it to poverty and things like that. But it shouldn't be like that. So yes, so the motivation there is that, okay, to encourage young people, because the average age of farmers in our village, I'm not saying across Nigeria at the moment, is 56 years old. So who's going to replace those people? Because all the young people they are now in the city, they will rather be riding Okada and be getting peanuts from that than work on the farm. And begin to wonder, say, what is the logic behind it? Quick money and all sorts of things like that. So we need to change the orientation and bring them back. So when they see people like us, who have made it in another field and coming back, in fact, the villagers are always surprised that I can come to the village and even sleep in the village. They say, why you want to go to the hotel in the city? I say, no, I'm part of you here. You have to identify with their problems. Then they take you seriously. I can sit down here and commandeer them and say, please do this, and they will respect me because they know I'm part of them, not like like a firefighter, come in there, do something and leave. You see the point? So it's about relationship.
It sounds quite ethnographic to me also, that you are embedded in the community as a participant and also as an observer. And I strongly believe that we have an opportunity, going back to your point about brain gain, to now bring the knowledge and experience that we've benefited from in the West back to our people on the ground. On that point, do you think the government is doing enough, or is there a role that the government can play? Or are they also willing to encourage the likes of you and other people to come back and add value?
Okay. You see, when we first need to define what we mean by government, and I think that's where the problem comes in sub-Saharan Africa. They think about, some people somewhere in the capital. They don't realize their own agency. We are the government. Are you getting it? So
Yes.
if we understand that we are the government, then we begin to act in that space.
Fantastic.
Okay, take for example, simple things. And I've said it many years before in Nigeria. You go to a street in Lagos and everybody has a generator. Everybody, every house has got a generator.
So much noise, yeah.
And apart from noise pollution, they are spending a lot of money to buy petrol. Now, if you now say to them, say, why don't they come together, buy one large generator that can serve the whole street? No. Oh, no, am I government? Or why should I do it for the benefit of other people when I'm not at home during the day, so somebody will be using it when I'm not at home? You see now, they don't understand that they have agency. People need to first understand their own agency and use it. Then you can build on that. Are you getting me? See? So that's what we are doing in the village there. We are helping them to understand their agency. So when now, say, local government officials now come to us, they will see that we are already a valuable asset. They won't see it as a problem. Are you getting me? So it is in their own interest. I'm waiting for the day when we're going to have a large warehouse in that village, okay? And we'll stock it with food, say grains, all sort of things, and we pile it, yeah? Then I will go and go to the city. I will call the government official. I say, come to our village. And when they come, I open the warehouse, they see it and say, you have so much food there. Why don't you take it to the site? I'm not taking it until you fix that road. And then I'll lock it again. I can keep it for the next 5 years. There is a technology to do that. So if you think we are valuable, then do what we need, then we bring the food to you.
Wow.
But at the moment, they don't see economic something, they say, these people are rural, they don't have anything to get, So we have to use our agency.
Absolutely. And that is the partnership that we need. I love that example that you gave, where you've done your parts, you've produced the crops, they are in storage. Now we need the government to repair the roads so we can take these goods to the market. And this is very important. My next question will be around your approach, because you're doing so much with very limited resources. You're a busy man yourself in terms of time. There's the financial aspect, there's also the human resources. How do you manage these very complex and intricate elements of the business? I think before we go into that, actually, if you just give us an overview of the key areas in which you're operating in, then now move on to the next question.
Okay. Now, of course, when you talk about, there is no time in history that somebody will say they have enough resources. No time in history. Even government will always be saying they don't have enough resources. Even American government, Donald Trump say want to make America rich again. So everybody wants, the resources. Now, but the point is, how are you managing the little that you think you have? Because if you don't manage that little very well, of course, it's not going to multiply. That's the point. People do things without thinking through. And that's why, in English, they say, okay, people don't fail to plan, don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. So, and planning means that you have to think through every aspect of the journey. So it's like a roadmap. So if I'm going, say, I want to travel from London to Manchester, in my mind, I have to know the routes to Manchester. In my mind, I have to place myself in Manchester and then come back to where I am now physically, which is still in London. Then I now begin to now map my step. Okay. Now, for SFM, our objective is very clear. Okay. We wanted to ensure there is end to food poverty. Now, how do you do that? There are many ways in which you can do it. We know some big charities, they will just give money to maybe vulnerable people or other people, or do food bank, that. And to them, but that is not sustainable. Even you can see in the UK now, food bank, they are complaining they can't get the food even from the supermarket that distribute the food to them free or close to nothing.
Yeah.
There was a time that everybody was shouting about fair share, fair share. You can hardly hear about fair share now. I don't know whether it's still going on properly, but it used to be so much noise about fair share. Now, so what you need to do is, okay, what is it that I have that can make me sustainable and achieve my goal? So in our own case, we bought land because we knew that production was a problem. Production and preservation were the problems. Okay? So now to do that, you have to be engaged in the process. So I cannot go to the farmer's farm and say, do it this way, do it that way. It's just like coming to your own house now and rearranging your sitting room for you. You'll be mad at me. Say, mister, I like it the way it is. But imagine if I came to your house, I saw your sitting room, maybe I didn't like one or two things about it. I said, okay, I invite you to my own house. And then you came in and you saw the way I said, and you said to me, say, I like the way you arrange your sitting room. I say, and it is very special. I said, do you realize that it's the same space as your house? You say, no, my house is smaller. I said, it's the way you cluttered it. I said, if you look at what I've arranged, if you go back home and rearrange your own something, you will go back and be motivated to go back home and rearrange your something. You know? So we have a farm there that is a demonstration farm, what we call show and tell. So we show them how to do it. So at the moment, we have vegetables on the farm now. In fact, we did, for the first time in our history, we did dry season farming. Of course, that means a lot of irrigation and things like that to be involved. So, which they've never done before in the village. So they are seeing dry season farming and things like that. So then we're going to, as the rainy season is starting now, we're going to go into maize production, which they do a lot in the village. And do a lot of yams in the village. Like, if we put it in pound sterling, equivalent of 100 pounds to start their business in farming, and people who have equivalent of 100,000 pounds. So you see small farm and big farm in Nigeria. But what you don't see is incremental growth. How can you start small and grow? So that's what we are trying to show. Because when you ask many people, say it's because we don't have money, that's why we are not into farming. It's okay, fine. We can demonstrate to you that if you had 100,000 naira and you do it this way, before 6 months to 12 months, that 100,000 has become 150,000 naira. Okay, then for instance, if I give you a practical example, when we wanted to start our poultry, so I said to our guys on the ground, I said, look, we're not going to start big, because if we start big, you're going to scare the farmers away. They say, oh, you have 500 beds. We don't have that money. I said, okay, start with 20. So we bought 20 chicks. And now those 20 chicks, they are now growing. See, from there, but before July, it's going to become 100 chicks. Okay? From 100, so in the next 5 years, we're going to become 5,000 beds. You can see the incremental. So when anybody comes to us and say, oh, maybe in 5 years time, you come to our village, because you're going to come to our village and visit us, I believe you will come.
Definitely.
So when you come there, you see big, something like that, poultry. You say, this is massive. We say, yes, we can tell you the story that we started from 20. Are you getting me? And then you'll be inspired and say, anybody can do this.
That's very interesting.
Like that.
That's very interesting, sir. So you talked about indigenous wisdom that these people already possess. So with the indigenous wisdom, did they not know and understand? Because I'm sure we have been farming in Africa for centuries. So is it a situation that we have lost the knowledge and wisdom as a result of the various interventions like slavery, colonialization, and all these various interventions? What do you think the fundamental problem is?
Yeah. The fundamental problem is that we disdain our indigenous knowledge. If you look at in the academia, go to any university in Nigeria or something like that and see the research they do. Even when they go to the farmers to gather their data, when they want to write it up, they write it in English. So even the farmers do not benefit from it because they are not reading English. They are not going back to the farmer and say, okay, look, the something we did with you, this is what we found, and this is how you can rectify it, and things like that. No connection between the two. Are you getting me? So we have the local people on one side still battling with whatever they do, and then the so-called elite on the other side thinking that they know a lot and they know next to nothing. I must tell you. Okay. Now, the indigenous knowledge is good because they know the land and they know how to use the land. In fact, if you look at it, when we want to do commercial farming and the West is already suffering from it, if you go around the UK, you can hardly find any woodland anymore because they cleared all the trees. And what's happening now? Global warming, all sorts of things like that. We are still lucky in Nigeria. At least only maybe 10% or 15% of our land is being used for farming. So we still have a lot of woodlands. You see? So indigenous people, they plant between the trees. They don't clear everything and put machinery. So what we are supposed to do in Nigeria is to have handheld machines instead of having caterpillar, having tractors and things like that. Handheld machines that can go between the trees. If you come to our farm, when we are clearing, we left some trees standing, useful trees that are bearing fruit. And some people who are around, they say, you still left some. I say, yeah, that's good for birds to come. They can perch. Even when you are walking around the farm, you are tired. You have somewhere you can sit under the tree, and then get fresh air, recoup your strength, and go sleep on. So we need to marry the two because we are now in the age of production, supply and demand and things like that. So we need to move beyond subsistence farming, which is what the indigenous knowledge is being used for. If we want to scale it up, then definitely we need to now say, okay, this is the process to do it. They need to understand the process, and there must be somebody, off takers who's going to take it, because once they have excess, what do they do with the excess? So if you have off takers, then off takers, they can take that one off them, and then they can start producing more.
And it's good for the cash flow also.
Yes.
Very good for the cash flow. That's a very interesting point. So you suggest an approach where subsistence farming carries on as well as the technological farming. And so that leads me to the next question. Where do you see or how do you see technology playing a role in meeting the demands of food security? As you and I know, there is acute food shortage. There is issues with weather conditions, or there are issues with weather conditions, floods, earthquakes, and all these other natural disasters. And we know the impact, even in America, the impact on agriculture, even in the West, the impact of agriculture. How do you see Africa overcoming these things?
Yeah, thank you. Let me correct one impression first. You see, enough food is being produced in the world. The problem is speculation. If you look at grains, for instance, okay, they will stockpile grains. Even the Western countries, they stockpile grains and then wait and begin to speculate on it and be selling that. So food has been commercialized to the point that now, only fewer and fewer people can afford to buy them. And it's a deliberate thing because they wanted to make income, profit out of food. They know that people need food and they want to make profit out of it. Now, we are overusing the land as a process of that because every now and then we want to get more yield from the land. So we are also wrecking something. You will see that in the Bible, if you go back to the Bible, God declared a jubilee year. Every 7 years, you must not farm. The 7th year, leave the land. He said, enough, you have produced enough for 6 years. So the 6th year, you use that one to eat in the 7th year and then come back the 8th year and start the process again. Where do you see that happening in the world today? Nowhere. You see, so we are going against the principles. And I said to we're reading today in Deuteronomy and 21, 22. And I said to my wife, I said, the shortcut of that is about relationship with God and relationship with people.
Mm.
You see, how do you relate? So now God has set out the principles of relationship.
Mm.
If you want to worship me, these are the things you need to do. If you want to show love to your fellow human being, these are the things you need to do.
Mm.
But we are going against that, thinking that we know too much. So, and that's where the problem is. We need to come back to the basic and have a duty of care. We have a duty of care to protect the land. We are not protecting the land. We are over farming, putting chemicals in there. We don't need chemicals in the land. In fact, it's so funny that when we were growing up, we use what we call organic food. Now, for you to buy organic food now, it's so expensive. And you begin to wonder, say, is that not what our forefathers have been eating? Organic. Yeah, you get it?
Mm.
See?
Mm.
So you can see that, it's about profit making and all sorts of things like that. So we need to come off that and make sure that everybody in the world, in fact, in an ideal world, nobody should be going hungry. Are you getting me? In an ideal world. Because it's a sign of wickedness to deny people food. It's wickedness. And to use food as weapons of war is the height of wickedness. Are you getting me? And we are seeing that playing out around the world. Are you getting me? So we need to be deliberate about what we do. And that's why I say people need to understand their own agency first and use it in the local area where they are. And then that can be multiplied into other places so that people can also use their agency for the benefit of the people.
So what would you describe as your main challenge so far?
You'll be quite surprised. You'll be quite surprised if I said to you that human beings. It's not money. It's the one. Because many people will say, oh, money, bad roads, this and that. It's actually human beings. Mindset. People have the wrong mindset. We are too self-centered. Are you getting me? So in our local village there where we are, people are still trying to circumvent, trying to outplay one another, trying to do. And I say, work together. Ordinarily saying to them, okay, what are you planting next season? People don't want to say to one another, but they want to hide it from that one and say, okay, oh, I just need money. I need my microphone. Oh, how much do you need? They will mention how much they need. What do you want to use it for? No, they don't want to say it in front of other people. Why? It's fun. What if because if, say, for instance, say 5 or 10 of them say we're going to do maize farming, then we can group them together and say, instead of each one of you taking 100,000, actually between the two of you, take less money and share. Are you getting me? The resources. No. So it's human beings. We are the main issue. If you can get over that, then you can begin to work on other aspects. How to make sure that we are able to progress and have, the kind of economic benefit that we all deserve. So that's my main thing. Human beings.
So that's really interesting. So what have you seen changes in the decision making and human interaction? And perhaps a follow-up question, what have you learned so far that can add value to other people that intend to go back and replicate
now,
what you're doing?
Yes. Let me start with changes. When I first had an interaction with the village people there are 6 villages around our farm. I went to each of the village head to talk to them. They don't do anything in common. They don't share a lot of things together. They don't do. So I said to each one, I said, why don't you come together? Because you have a common problem, which is poverty. Say, come together and then begin to work for the progress of your community. They accepted because I wasn't from any of the villages.
So you're neutral.
I'm neutral, and I wasn't a politician as well. So they say, this guy who took so much interest in us and
Mm.
sleeps in the village as well,
Mm.
must have something, nice to tell. So, well, they trusted me. They came together, and then we formed the Shepherd Farmers Cooperative. So, and registered it. So, since 2018, we have a registered cooperative in Ayedele local government. Okay. Now, so through that, they've now learned the concept of love, appreciating one another. So before, when somebody doesn't come to the meeting or something like that, they just want to sanction. They want to do. And I said to them, have you actually found time to visit? No, the person, I said, okay, form a welfare committee. So they formed that, and then now they visit one another, then they know. In fact, today they were talking about their treasurer who's sick in the hospital. They've now sent somebody, now two individuals, to go and visit her in the hospital.
Wow.
So they are now showing love. So I've seen that change in them. Simple. Which to me, it's something to applaud, to be candid. Because when you have people who are happy to work together and live together, you have a starting point to progress. Because wherever there is strife, nothing can survive. It's the same thing with war and peace. Where there is war, nothing happens. So peace is the first thing. You have to make peace before you can progress. So they've made peace. So that's good. Now, the other thing is, okay, what have we learned? We've also learned to be patient with people. I told you, the journey started, the first time I met them was 2010. The first time they were able to have a cooperative, formalized one was 2018. And now we are still where we are now. Now they have access to microfinance, they have all sort of things like that. So we are making progress. You getting me? So you have to be patient because people come at different paces, and some people come with their own agenda before they can surrender that agenda to the common agenda. Are you getting me? So you have to have a very big heart. So that's where loving people comes in. Then making sure that they don't forget. I was still reminding them today. I said, look, don't forget our destination. I said, I want to see a time when somebody in this cooperative, or many of you, can actually borrow 1 million naira. Are you getting me? And they all clap. That would be the first. I don't know of any cooperative in Nigeria where you can get 1 million naira from that cooperative. Are you getting me? You see? So, and we can set the pace and say, this is our cooperative. Already in the whole of the neighborhood there, they are already saying that our cooperative is unique because in our cooperative, it's without usury, with no interest. You borrow your money, you tell us you're paying back within 6 months, you pay back no interest. Again, and many of them do pay. We have very low, maybe 2% default or something like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, they manage one another, they monitor one another. All of them live in the village anyway, so there's nowhere you can run to if you default. Things like that, So yeah, so it's a journey. You just have to see it as a journey.
I really love what you've done. It's really encouraging and really inspiring. So the first process, if I'm trying to summarize it, was obviously to engage with them, developed a relationship with them. Then you now set up the cooperative. And from the back of the cooperative, you're now bringing in various ideas like the educational aspect, the workshops, the training that you're giving them, access to microfinance, and other elements. But also, you're doing the show and tell to inspire them to keep doing things the best way, best practices. So, if you had no constraints or restraints, where would you be investing your resource and times? In which aspect do you think you would love to do more, but for time and money and all these other?
Well, you see, I'll put it the other way. If I had money, say for instance now, I had 500 million naira. Are you getting it? I will still want to follow a process that is sustainable, that can actually not scare people away from developing. Because that's the danger with a lot of money. When you have a lot of money, you want to start big. You know, I told you about what we are doing with chickens, poultry that we are starting. Of course, if I had it, I could have just gone in there and say, okay, let's start with 5,000 beds. That will scare all of them away. You see? So we are not there for commercial. If you are doing a commercial, so you have to separate your motive. If you are going in there for commercial purpose, then okay, borrow money or have your money and start big because you want to be realizing the profit immediately. But if you are going there, like we did, to empower people, you have to show incremental growth. Just like if you have a child, you want that child to become a medical doctor. You won't just take that child from age 6 and put him in the university. And then, you have to go through primary, secondary. So then you see what? So that process, you don't jump it because you are empowering. You see what I mean? So you have to separate the two.
That is fantastic. What about the next generation there, sir? How are they taking to what SFM is doing?
Well, thankfully, for the first time in our history, we now have 7 young people from university. None of them studied agriculture, living on our farm now.
Wow.
And 3 other ones also come in and go because they are into digital literacy. So, we're now making sure that in the whole of the day, all the young people have access to computer to learn about digital literacy. So we have 2 individuals, young boys, who come in. When I say young boys, they are in their 20s, who come in every weekend to teach them. And in fact, 10 of them sat for Google test, computer test last week, and 7 passed.
Wow.
You see? So then they take them to the next level. So we are following a curriculum that is internationally recognized. Are you getting me? So that can even get them job later on and those sort of things like that. And these are, we are talking of maybe from 12 years old to 16-year-old. These are young people in the village
secondary school age.
Secondary school, primary, secondary school age. So they are learning very fast because in the whole of the village, we have 3 primary schools there. There's no computer, nothing. Some of them have not even seen computers before. So we introduced digital literacy program.
Excellent. Working in collaboration with the schools. That is fantastic. We have 7 minutes to go, and I would like to use this opportunity to thank you once again for sparing time to be with us. As I said, this is our inaugural series, as it were, episode within the series, and we want to thank you for joining us. There will be more. The next one will be with a very interesting agency based in Albania, and they are looking at ethical tech and how best ethical tech can be used to harness and deal with the issue of brain drain also. So stay with us, join us, and on this journey, we have an interesting lineup of other guests that will be coming up. And these events are normally on Saturdays for an hour, and we give you the opportunity to hear from these people, their experience, and how they've been able to accomplish what they accomplished and what they intend to do. But also, you will have the opportunity to ask them questions along the journey. So thank you very much. You know where to find us. It's Cottage Factory, www.cottagefactory.co.uk. And my name is Clement Akron, your host. I want to thank you for watching this video, sharing this video, but also want to encourage you to please join us in spreading this word and in inspiring others to live the best lives. Thank you so much. See you at the next event. Bye now.